It's obvious, right, that the sun rises in the morning and that your lungs are there so you can breathe. Well, as Descartes and the revolution he inspired showed, those claims are both false. So what's it like to be you? I mean, the first thing you should notice is that you always find yourself being aware. You're conscious, and you're conscious that you're conscious. You're self-conscious. And you, as that self-conscious being, also think. That experience, or that set of experiences, are unavoidable and irreducible. Like, that's where you are, and it's never otherwise. So Descartes says, imagine a situation where you can doubt everything there is. Even if you could doubt everything there is, you couldn't get away from that. Right? Indeed, the very fact that you might be doubting that, you think, I doubt that I'm aware. I doubt that I'm thinking. Those activities, those statements contradict themselves. In the very attempt to doubt them, you actually have to be recognizing that you are there as a thinking thing. You have to be there, and you have to recognize it. But there's a second thing, too, that you notice. Not only do you find yourself as he says, a thinking thing, you also find yourself in a world of objects. What do I mean by objects? I don't just mean stuff. I mean more specifically that, again, you have no choice about it. You experience yourself as confronted by things that you recognize to exist apart from your noticing them. Right? You experience things as objectively real. I mean, maybe you're wrong about that, but that's how you experience them, and you can't change that. So those two things, Descartes says, are what really have to orient us in thinking about what it is to actually know something. In our everyday experience, we see things in a certain way, and we just take that way that things appear to us as straightforwardly representing the way things are. So, for example, with respect to your own body, you rightly experience it as kind of special to you because, when it gets hit, you feel pain. I want to emphasize that word "you" there because the thing that feels the pain is that same thing we talked about a minute ago, which is you as that aware self-consciousness. So you is the one who's actually experiencing. And you experience yourself as intimately paired with this body. So it seems like your body is just there to do as you command. When you need to grab something, your hand just reaches out and get it. When a mosquito stings you, you just smack it without even thinking about it. So your body in your immediate experience is just you. But the fact is, your body also operates by different rules. It operates by the rules of bodies. So, for example, it can be punctured by a knife, and the things that happen there will just be explained by how sharp metal surfaces interact with these soft, fleshy surfaces. So, your body actually responds to the rules of bodies as such, right? Those things that fit into a certain place, and if they're there, nothing else can be there. And they have a certain amount of mass, and they move and so on. Right? How do you know those rules? Well, remarkably, you know them by that very thing we noticed at the beginning, by the fact that you're a thinking thing. Normally you would say, how do you know there's a body there? You'd say, I see it. But Descartes says that's not quite right. If you take a candle, for example, and melt it, what you had was a piece of, hard yellow wax that was cold right there. A minute later, you have a pool of liquid, transparent, hot something or other. Right? You recognize it as the same body having gone through a change. But that recognition of the sameness of it as a body isn't anything you can see. What you saw was just changing colors, changing textures, changing temperatures. Recognizing it as a body that changed depends on you already having grasped what it is to be a body. That thing that, as I said, is extended in space and malleable and so on. That notion of body as such is something we understand. We grasp it with the mind. And it's because we understand it that we can recognize, oh, that's a body that went through those changes. And if we're really going to understand bodies, you're going to have to use your intelligence to think about what you could do to approach the world around you of the things you see and study them so as to get them to show you how bodies as such work. And what that means is you construct experiments. You design experiments to see how a body works, right? Your senses, your everyday perception isn't going to be what shows you the truth. It's going to be what recognizes the evidence that lets you conclude on the basis of your experiments what the truth is. So our knowledge of the laws that bodies work by is going to come by us using our minds, that unique thing that we are, to construct experiments to learn how they work. And that's when we're going to understand things objectively. And that is the scientific revolution for which Descartes is laying the foundations. So the fact is, the sun doesn't rise. What's really going on is this really big lump of matter, the Earth, is orbiting this even bigger thing, the sun, because of the laws of matter. And the fact that you happen to be on the Earth while it's also turning around on its axis makes it look to your perspective like the sun is rising around your stationary position. But the situation is quite the opposite. The sun is the fixed point around which you are in motion, both orbiting it and turning on your own axis. And your lungs aren't there so that you can breathe. You are the kind of being that can breathe because nature has brought into being the lungs that make that kind of thing possible. In each case, the thing that you take normally in your everyday perceptual life to be the cause in relation to which other things are to be explained is actually the effect. And you need to use your mind and the experimental method of science to understand that.